Hi, this is Ibarionex from the Candid Frame, and this week on street photography, we're going to talk about taking risks. Welcome back. I've been looking at a lot of work, and one of the things that comes up a lot, especially with respect to street photography, is the way that we learn to do street photography is by looking at other people's work. And whether it's on Instagram or in books or in gallery exhibitions, the thing that tends to happen is that we emulate other photographers and find different ways of creating any variety of different compositions. And that's one of the reasons why you see a lot of similar images, not only in our Flickr pool, but on Instagram and elsewhere. Everyone is sort of copying everyone else, not for any bad reason, but simply they're trying to understand how other photographers created that image. And that's why you see so many similar shots. But one of the things I want to suggest to you is this idea that sometimes you may just want to take a risk. You may want to create an image or a series of images where you're not so much trying to copy or emulate what someone else is doing, but you're just curious as to what it will look like in a photograph. Gary Winogrand has this famous saying that he photographed things simply to see how they looked photographed. He didn't go out with a particular intention in terms of creating a particular type of photograph. He just wanted to see what it looked like when captured by his camera. And one of the things that I do on occasion when I feel that I'm seeing a little bit too rigidly is I'll take my camera and I won't even look through the viewfinder. I'll just have the camera and I'll just see something and I'll just react to it and I'll just make the photograph, not paying attention to how perfect the composition is or how things are sort of relative to it. A lot of people will shoot from the hip this way, sort of normally. I usually look through the viewfinder or the LCD. But the reason why I will shoot that way is not because I'm nervous about someone sort of catching me making a photograph. I just want to see what sort of surprises may occur as a result of me not looking through the viewfinder and carefully framing my shot. And I chose three photographs. I don't know the intention behind the photographers in making the shots. Some of them look like they were very, very intentional. But these are three images that really gave spark to this whole idea. So let's take a look at them. Okay, here we have a shot by Blue 35 Photography made with a Leica Q at 1/400th of a second, f1.7 ISO 1600. Now, this image seems to be made like in a subway tunnel or something like this. You see this fluorescent light that's overhead of these two figures that are walking through this tunnel. The light falls down on the fellow's head on the right, highlighting his salt and pepper hair, the hoodie that he's wearing, and then on the left-hand side, you'll see the coat of what I assume is a woman. So we don't see any details of faces. We don't see any expressions. There aren't any prominent gestures. The things that we're often looking at when we evaluate images on this channel. And though the image in and of itself isn't a fantastic photograph, it doesn't capture a quintessential moment. What I do like about it is the choice to shoot the frame. Now, this may have been the result of shooting from the hip, where the photographer wasn't really carefully looking through the viewfinder and just sort of tilted the camera up, and it may have resulted in him getting more of the fluorescent lighting fixture than he anticipated. Maybe he was trying to photograph the person, or maybe it was completely intentional. I don't know, but this perspective, this shooting up and allowing the light source to be such a dominant element in the scene, and the way that it's mirrored in the other light source that's in a distance at the lower bottom half of the frame, is really interesting because I take a look at this picture and there are certain things I really like about it. I like the way that the light falls on the figures in the foreground. And I like the sort of glow that exists because the exposure is being so biased for the light fixture. You can see that it transitions here from very bright to a little lighter and then goes into black. And that tonal contrast is really sort of interesting. Normally, when you're photographing, say, in a tunnel like this, and you see people moving, back and forth, you're not being impressed so much by the lighting, especially the yellowish greenish fluorescent lighting that is frequently found in such a scene. You're usually moving through the tunnel to get to another destination. You're not really thinking about it as an opportunity for a photograph. And that's one of the things that I like about this photograph is that it triggers for me that there are possibilities where I wouldn't normally think possibilities exist, like in a tunnel or under fluorescent lighting, which is typically really bad lighting to shoot under. But this gives me the germ of an idea of, if I'm in a similar situation, if I see this similar light in under similar circumstances, what can I do with it? Can I take advantage of that fluorescent light and bias the exposure for the highlights and then let the area go black? Can I emphasize some element, either a human figure or something else, that's going to fall directly under that source of light? And can I possibly produce an image that's very different from anything else they've created? That's what I'm suggesting with this series of images. And I find that I make discoveries like this when I do shoot from the hip, and or I'm just thrusting the camera forward and not really caring about getting a perfect shot. I'm looking for leads. I'm looking for leads for things for me to think of the next time I go out and shoot. Okay, here we have a shot by Gustavo Minas. No XF data here. So here's a woman that's working in a bar or a restaurant. You see her cleaning the display. You see the refrigeration containers for the various drinks. You see the bottles in the background. And one of the things I like about this shot is the light that's falling on her. That really is a big draw because that's the brightest element of the frame. And though this shot in and of itself is something you've likely seen before, when it comes to street photography, I don't often see images that are taken within storefronts. And I know some people who are very specific about their definitions of street photography would say that if you move indoors, it's no longer street photography. And for me, I think that is the stupidest idea, because street photography at its heart is about photographing in public. And this, even though it's a private bar or a restaurant, there's human activity happening out in public. You're photographing people that you don't know. And in limiting yourself to just what's happening on a sidewalk or in a crosswalk, I think is too restrictive. And I think there are scenes to be had anywhere there are people interacting. And again, it's the choice about where the person is photographing, because even myself, sometimes I will walk into a space, a private business, where there is a lot of activity. And because I'm going in to get a drink or buy something to eat or whatever it is, I'll stop thinking about making a photograph. And it's like, why am I stopping? That's what I'm out here to do. I'm out here to make pictures. And whether I walk into a store to buy something to eat or whatever it is, continue to actively see, observe, because those qualities of light and shadow, line and shape and color and gesture, they're happening everywhere. Why would I want to miss out on something interesting just because someone else says it doesn't qualify as a street photograph? I'm out there to practice the art of making pictures, and pictures are going to reveal themselves wherever I am. So this shot primarily is sort of a reminder to me of, if I'm out there with my camera, be ready for anything. If you want to submit images to the Candid Frame Flickr pool, all you have to do is go to the Candid Frame, go to Flickr, you'll see the URL here on the screen, and all you need to do is ask to be added, but you have to do it on your computer. Don't do it on your phone or tablet. You'll get a message that this is a private group and it's invitation only. Disregard that and just go to your computer and ask to be added, and I usually get to it once a week, and you can contribute to the community of photographers that we have here. Okay, lastly, we have this shot by Warzone. This was created with a Sony 6300, at 3/20th of a second, 5.6, ISO 800. Now, this is an image that doesn't appear to me that it was shot from the hip, just because of how carefully the entire composition is composed. You can see, in terms of the graphic nature of the shot, in terms of the diagonal lines, the repeating patterns and shape that pervade the whole shot, the color play, the light and shadow, all of that stuff is really wonderful. And we see this foot here that serves as a gesture, as a counterpoint to all these other fixed elements within the shot. And I think that compositionally and in terms of its use of all these graphic qualities, it's a really sort of interesting shot. But like the previous shot, I think this is a shot that a lot of people would not consider making because it's less than obvious. And sometimes I will see a scene like this and I don't immediately understand exactly what about it is drawing me in, but I'll make the photograph anyway. And even if the image is a failed image, I'll still look at it and try to parse it and try to figure out, well, what drew me to the scene in the first place? What attracted me? And if the image is successful, I'll have an understanding of, oh, this is why the image works. But if it fails, that image will provide me just as much information as well, because I'll go, oh, I was gravitating to this area here, but there was some element here that I didn't pay attention to, which ruined the photograph. Because one of the things about emulating other people and taking photographs that you've seen other people take over and over again, while it does provide you the experience and the understanding of how to create that kind of picture, you can get trapped to the point where all you're doing is mimicking another photographer's approach, sensibility, and technique. And when you shoot in this way, where you're being less precious about composing the shot, you get to learn how and why you respond to things impulsively. And yeah, I know those pictures may not be great. Those are not the pictures that you're going to show in your gallery or your website, or they may be. But for me, they're always really interesting diversions, because I'll see something in those photographs that really excite me. And then the challenge becomes, not only can I recreate that purposely, but can I come to understand what is it about that scene that drew me into it in the first place, and that and inspires that spark in me to make that kind of photograph. Hope you found that helpful. I'm teaching a variety of different workshops this year. The first one that's going to be coming up is in May in Washington, D.C. It's part of the Focus on the Story Photography Festival, which is dedicated to photojournalism, street photography, and documentary photography. I'll be conducting a live panel and interview while I'm there, but I'm also going to be doing a 2-day workshop, which is largely inspired by a lot of the principles that you see on this channel, as well as my book, Making Photographs, Developing a Personal Visual Workflow. There's still spots available for the event. It's in late May, early June. So just go to focusonthestory.org, or you'll find a link below in the show notes. And The Candid Frame is my podcast, which I've been doing now for 13 and a half years. And it's a show where I interview photographers about their work and career. I don't spend a lot of time talking about equipment and technique. It's really about why photographers do what they do. My most recent interview was with Sarah Terry. She is a documentary photographer, filmmaker, photojournalist. Her focus has been on the aftermath of war and conflict. She started an organization, a nonprofit called the Aftermath Project, in which she creates a grant for photographers to document communities and people after war and conflict in different parts of the world. She's a really fascinating woman, very, very passionate. So if you've not heard an episode of The Candid Frame, or you haven't listened to one in a while, you should definitely check that out. And you can go to thecandidframe.com for that, or you can download the podcast from iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you like what you're seeing in these videos, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.